It's been a while since we've had something here up on the bench. It's way too hot to be outside working, and it's yard sale season, but haven't really found anything good. But I do have something for the bench today. It's something that we have worked on before, but it's not the same brand. It's a singing bird clock. The problem with this one is the clock mechanism stops. It keeps pretty good time when it runs, but occasionally it will just stop. I can smack it a few times and it'll start working again, so I'm pretty sure the clock mechanism is bad, needs to be replaced. And you can get a new clock mechanism for these, and I will put a link to it in the description. You can get them off the Jungle website, the River Jungle website. Another problem with this one is the birdies are very distorted when they sing, or some of them don't even sing. There's a button on the back here. There it is. You can kind of... Let's hear the next one. Maybe the lower tones are really weird. See how that... It's kind of broken? I don't know. Very digital sounding. And you notice the clock mechanism has stopped. So you can hear it there. And you can see the clock mechanism has stopped. I've done nothing but just push that button in the back. So I'm suspecting there, just a little tap and it starts again. It seems to run okay if it's not straight up and down. When it's hung on the wall straight up and down, it'll stop. But if it's at a slight angle this way or tilted forward a little bit, it will continue to run. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but I have an idea. The other video that I made on one of these, there's some things that we're going to be able to cover today, and one of them is the clock mechanism replacement, which is not that big a deal. It's very simple, straightforward. If you have a soldering iron and some heat shrink and some basic hand tools, it's not a big deal to change out. It's very easy. The other thing I'm suspecting with the birds making the noises not as clear and maybe more digitized, kind of distorted a little bit, is the electrolytic capacitors on that board that generate the birdie sounds. So we're going to get this apart and take a look inside of it. Yeah, I guess maybe I can answer some questions for people if they have one of these themselves. Hopefully this video can cover some of the stuff that maybe I don't know. These things are super simple. I'm not saying, that some of these, that all of them can be repaired, but there are a lot of them out there, I think, that people just throw away when they stop working. And these are great clocks. I enjoy them. I don't have one in my house. This is for a lovely lady I know. She's awesome. And there is something that I don't know if I mentioned before, but there's a photo sensor right here at the top. So as it gets dark, the volume comes down on this, and when when you turn the lights off in your house at night, it just stops singing altogether when there's no light, or it's so low that you can't hear it. And if yours is not loud, you know, like in full sunlight, then maybe the photo sensor's got something going on with it, or the connection to it, maybe high resistance. I'm not exactly sure how that photo sensor works, and we'll take a look at it and see if we can deduce. And if you want yours to sing loud all the time, no matter what, maybe we can bypass that photo sensor to, you know, keep the volume up high. To take it apart, it's pretty simple. If I remember right, there's 4 screws. Yeah, 4 screws on the bezel. There's one here, there's one here, and then there's one down here. And I believe the whole thing comes apart. And then I think there's 2 more screws here, here, and here that I think take it apart further inside. We'll have to get because I think these 4 screws on the outside take the front cover off. And then I think these 2 screws separate it right here, if I remember right. So we can get the mechanism. And I think before you can do that, you got to take when you get the glass off, I think you have to take these, the hands off in that nut. And then I think it leaves this clock face. So basically you got, you know, the bezel and the lens is one part. Another part is this back piece. So that's 2, and then I think this clock face right here is part number 3. 3 main sections to this. So I'll get this apart and take a look at what capacitors we need for the board, and then if I don't have them, I'll run down to my local electronics shop and get them. We'll be back shortly. Well, I did misspeak on the number of screws holding this piece on. There are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're a little bit shorter than the screws for the bezel and the screen. They're right here. It's just they're different size screws, so it's the shorter ones hold this on, the longer ones hold the bezel and the lens on, or the glass, whatever you want to call it, lens. I will say that this one is built a little bit better, but in some respects a little bit worse. They just had some tape, some Scotch tape, taping these 2 bare connections to the cover. Now they did provide a place for wires to sit, where you can stick the wires up in here to hold them. But the only wires that were in there were these 2 and this one for the photo sensor. I'm imagining these are, I don't know. Maybe these 2 were supposed to be in there. These 4 wires in the manufacturing, they should have put 4, you know, more for these wires to hang out, but they just had them Scotch taped up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat shrink them and solder those connections together when I put the new clock mechanism in. Now I will say the build quality is a little bit better on this one because of the way that the bird sound generating board is connected. And I think it might have a bad connection to the speaker. It looks like it's soldered directly onto the speaker, so it isn't just floating around in here. If you remember that other one, there were wires going to the speaker. But to get to this, you're going to have to either bend this up or pull the speaker out. Now the speaker's captured. It looks like it's just slid in under these 2 plastic tabs, and there was a chunk of hot glue, that I pried off with a screwdriver. So I think I'm going to be able to slide the speaker out and flip the board over and get to these electrolytic capacitors that are on this board and figure out what size they are. And I'll double check this connection because I don't think that should be moving like that. Yeah, it feels like maybe that's part of the reason why the sound is bad. Maybe there's a bad solder joint right here. That could cause some weird, you know, digitally sound, maybe some distortion. I'm not sure. I would think a bad connection, it would either work or not work. Yeah, if we have time, we may take this clock mechanism apart and take a look at what's inside there and see how it, you know, what makes it tick. So, all right, we're gonna move on from this. I'm gonna see if I can't get that speaker out of there. I pried the glue off. I'm imagining it should just slide. Oh boy. Well, it's moving. You can see I can make it move. I think it's just really jammed in there hard. And I don't want to destroy this little speaker, but yeah, there it is. It's moving now. What my old buddy Steve used to say, brute strength and common ignorance gets just about anything done. All right, we'll be back when I get that speaker out and get it flipped over. We'll take a look at that board and the what size capacitors are on it. Yeah, the printing's really small on those guys. Pardon me. 3.3 microfarads at 50 volts, 3.3 microfarads at 50 volts. I was wrong. The bird generation chip is not on this. This appears to be just an amplifier, I guess. I believe right here, let's see if we can, yeah, we can move this. I believe the chip is in this unit right here. The sound generation is here. So this one is quite a bit different than that National Autobahn one. This one, I'm not sure what brand it is. I really don't care. They're probably made in the same factory at some point or another. They're just different dates they were made. And one had National Autobahn printed on it, and this one doesn't. I don't know that. I could be all wet behind the ears on all that. But regardless, we're just going to repair it. And I do not have that small of capacitors. I mean, you could probably put a 5, but I don't even think I have 5s. I think the smallest ones I have are 10. And I think that's just a little bit much. It might really change the tone, the sound of the birdies, how they meant it to be. A guy could experiment and, you know, put different size capacitors in there. It could change the tone. I don't know, but I'm gonna replace these capacitors. I'm gonna go get them today. I'm gonna run down there real quick and get them. I should be able to get this back together maybe today. You know, it should be no big deal. You know, unsoldering these and then putting new ones in here, putting this back in there, and securing that speaker in there with something removable. I'm gonna think about how to do that. The hot glue came right off the glue gun, but I'm not a big fan of hot glue. I'll figure something out. If I have to, I'll just hot glue it back on there. Maybe some of that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll be back. All right, we're going to take a look at the photo sensor on this bird clock. I've been having trouble with my meter a little bit on the resistance, and it looks like it's working good in that position now. I've had that meter since '97. I've done several repairs on that thing. It's getting to the end of its life, I believe. I have a lot of other meters I can use, but I just like that one. I don't know why. It's a pain in the butt, but let's take a look at the resistance here. I'm going to try and the photo sensor. I'm trying to get the photo sensor and the resistance in there at the same time. So there we go. 1.265K it looks like. Is that K? Yeah, K. K ohms. Let's turn one of the lights off here. Lower the light. Yeah, see the resistance immediately changes. No, I don't think it's going to show up if I turn this light off, but it goes up to like 100 and something. We'll try and see if it can, if the camera can compensate. And it cannot. Oh, it might. There it goes. So now we're at 130 something. 130 something ohms. K ohms. So it does vary the light, the resistance with the light. So there you go. That's how you. So if you're having a problem with the volume on your bird singing clock, more than likely it's either it's not getting enough light, you have it in an area where it needs more light, or pardon me, there's something wrong with that photo cell or the wiring to it. And I just can't see corrosion happening in one of these unless the batteries puke their guts. You know, the off gassing from the batteries corroding can cause corrosion on some metals, mainly copper is what I've seen, bare exposed copper. And most of these have that tin covered wiring. So I'm not sure if that'll corrode, you know, if that'll corrode from the, you know, the off gassing of those, you know, alkaline cells. I don't know. I would say more than likely you just don't have your clock in a bright enough area. You need to put more light on your clock. Or like I said, something's wrong with the photocell circuit. I don't know what really could go wrong with that. But I would assume that you can put a, you know, a resistor across here. You know, when the light's fully on it, you've seen it. It's like 1.2K. So I'm not sure if we're measuring any resistance from, you know, backfeeding from the board. But since we did see a difference, we could have a parallel resistance going on here, which I would think would lower the amount of resistance. So I'm not going to desolder it to check it. It's just suffice it to say that the photocell does vary the resistance. So there you go. That's your volume control, is your photocell. I have the new capacitors installed, and I was right. Well, they're soldered in anyway. But I was right. There is a loose connection on this where this board mounts to the speaker. And I'm going to try and see if I can make it come up. If I can show you on the camera. Oh, too close. Too close. See if I can turn it there. I don't know if you can see that solder joint right there. Let me see if I can get it to move. No, it's not going to do what I want it to do. Oh, come on. I know it's loose. I was just moving it. There. So push it back down on there and I'll solder that back up. And we'll get the speaker back installed. We'll be back. The new clock movement came. Here's the old one. It's just 2 wires. It's just a trip. So at the top of the hour, a set of contacts closes inside this mechanism, tripping the birds to sing. There's a little rubber pad here. So there's the new mechanism. Got it on eBay. Not on eBay, sorry, on the Jungle River site. And here's what comes. So it looks like we've got a new rubber pad, a new washer and mounting nut, plus some sort of bracket to hang it. And maybe if you don't want a second hand, we'll have to look at the instructions. And then there's the mechanism. I mean, extremely, almost exactly the same. A little difference here in the corner with these small holes, but it's extremely similar. I think it's the same manufacturer. Same part number on the back. 12888, I think it says. This one says Youngtown. Huh. So that's the old one. This is the new one. Let's see what else we have in here. Come on. I can't even get the instructions out. So you put the hands on it at noon, the hour, the minute, and the second hand all at noon. Huh. That's something else, isn't it? Yeah, pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any big secrets. And I think you get a couple of sets of hands in the different, like black. I'm not sure, And then you got like some shorter hands. So you get quite a selection of movement hands if you want to use those. I'm going to reuse the ones that came with the birdie. So put that up here. So I think I'm just going to slide some heat shrink. I'm just going to slide some heat shrink down onto here, and I'll solder the wires together. There's no polarity to the wire connections. It's just a switch. So it doesn't matter which wire goes where. That's why they didn't mark these separately. They're the same color wire, so it doesn't matter. I'll get this connected, and we'll be back. See how the birdies sound. I've got the clock mechanism soldered in, and I went ahead and mounted it to the clock face. I put a couple of batteries into the the two AAA battery holder are for the bird singing part, and then you've got one AAA battery that runs the clock mechanism. That battery does not need to be in there to hear the birdies sing. You can just push the button, and you use the button to advance through them till you can time it correctly with the clock face, which bird, at the what hour. So we're just going to go ahead and push it once here. It does sound very digital. I think the Audubon Society one had a better realistic bird sound. This sounds very digital, but it's not distorted anymore. And I'm sure that the bird songs are on a chip that's under this. Let's see here. I'm sure it's on a chip that's under this epoxy. I don't know why they sealed it off. It's kind of weird. The other one was clearly a small IC on the same side as the amplifier. Now, when you mount the clock mechanism, there is no need to put this in there because this is for hanging it, right? This would go on the shaft. So this is for hanging it, but you've already got a hole here for hanging this. So this is not needed in this application. So it is possible that you could take this all out of here and put this bird singing mechanism in a different clock if you made one, like out of an old burl, a nice burl piece of wood or something. I like the bird, seeing what bird it is on the face of the clock, but I don't know bird songs, so it's going to have to be somebody else to make the adjustment to this. But she'll just love it, and she knows the bird songs, so she'll be able to adjust it once I give it to her. I'm just going to put it together and let it run for a better part, for as long until I take it up to her, till I see her again and give it back to her. So from this point, it's just assembly, right? These 4 screws to mount it on here, just make sure that these wires, you know, they get tucked in here on these so that they're out of the way. You have to make sure these wires don't get caught in here somehow. And I don't think this speaker can fall out of here. I mean, that's going to take a lot of force to move that. I guess if the clock fell off the wall, it is possibility that this could be pulled out of here, because when I got it, there was a piece of hot glue right here holding this, you know, just kind of locking the speaker in. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might just leave it the way it is. She's pretty careful with her stuff, so I don't imagine it falling off the wall. If there was an earthquake, I think we got bigger problems than the bird singing clock. If it was an earthquake strong enough to knock this off the wall, we got a lot bigger problems to deal with. Yeah, I think that's about it for this one. I'll put it together, and like I said, just make sure these wires don't get crushed. You know, I'll put it together, and then I'll clean the clock lens. And I don't think that this face is. Yeah, this doesn't need to be clean. This is all pretty clean. I think the other one I did, there was some dirt in here. I think I cleaned it up, you know, with just a wet paper towel. I'm going to go ahead and clean the lens on this one with some spray away glass cleaner. I love spray away glass cleaner. That stuff rocks. And yeah, we'll come back and see it working after I get the hands on. Pretty straightforward. Well, it's back together. We got the needles on. The instructions for the clock mechanism said to put the hands on the way the clock was sitting. I put the hands on, and it was off like 20-25 minutes. So I had to run it around until I heard the click. So that tells you it's at the top of the hour. So I went ahead and pulled the battery out of the mechanism, and I pulled the hands back off, and I put it all at midnight. And I put the second hand about 5 seconds past, because it took me 4 or 5 seconds to flip it over and get the battery out once I heard the click and the bird sing. So I think I'm pretty close on the second hand. I mean, it's very difficult to be 100% on the second hand. But the minute and hour hand, I think are within 30 seconds of the top of the hour. Now, I haven't ran it around. I haven't set the time. I'm just going to let it run here for a second or two. I think I'm going to go ahead and run it around. But if you run it around for the top of the hour and the second hand's not at the top of the hour, the top of it'll put it out of time, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. But, you know, anybody's just going to set the clock anyway, no matter what. So let's go ahead and run it around and hear the birdies sing. So the next one to come up should be the robin redbreast, the American robin. Oh, please tell me this is right. I'm doing this on camera. Come on, click. So I'm a minute off on the second hand, or on the minute hand. Very digital sounding. I think that National Audubon Society clock has got a better quality bird sound. So I'm within a minute. I'm not going to change it. It's fine. These mechanisms aren't that accurate anyway. But let's run it around. I don't know if I have it right, but that did sound like the robin. I don't know for 100%. So the mockingbird, I have no idea what a mockingbird sounds like. See, there's some movement back and forth on that. See? See, on that National Audubon Society, there was an owl. And there's no mistaking what an owl is. So you can tell where you're at when you get to the owl, and then you can just count. So I have no idea what a blue jay sounds like. I don't. All we have are stellar jays around here, not blue jays. So he's saying 3 times. Is the house wren going to sing 4 times? That's 3. That's 4 times. So is the titmouse going to sing 5 times? I don't think he sang 5 times. The northern oriole. That sounds a lot better. I think that sounds better in person. I don't know if the speaker on that camera is going to pick it up, but it doesn't sound distorted, not nearly as bad. I did find that loose solder joint to the speaker. I don't think that's a mourning dove. I think we're off one. To be honest with you, I think we're really off one. I think that was the chickadee. All right, I don't know if I'm going to do them all. I'm just going to do one more here. Just see the consistency of the minute hand. So it's a little bit past the top of the hour when it comes on. But like I said, there's some movement in that hand. There's some slop in there. All right, I think we're done with this. Just going to let it run, make sure that it doesn't stop when it's straight up and down on the uphill side a few times. Just like I said, I'll let it run until I take it up to her. She's going to be very happy to have another one. I think she's going to take it to her and put it in her office at work. All right. Thanks for watching.